The alien fleet moved like shadows across the stars, sleek and silent, their intentions clear. Alex watched from the command deck, his fingers gripping the controls, eyes scanning every movement. Lyra stood beside him, her posture calm, almost regal, but Alex could sense the tension beneath her composed exterior. The responsibility was enormous. Zarnok's empire was under threat, and its survival depended on them both. Their first move was to anticipate the attacker's strategy. Alex had learned quickly that alien fleets relied on predictable tactics. They liked formations, relied on known patterns, and underestimated humans. He used this knowledge to prepare countermeasures that even the most seasoned alien commanders wouldn't see coming. Lyra provided intelligence on enemy strengths, weaknesses, and potential escape routes, while Alex suggested maneuvers no alien would attempt, a human unpredictability that could turn the tide of battle. The first strike came without warning. Small scout ships darted through asteroid belts, probing defenses. Alex had anticipated their path and set traps using decoy signals and hidden drones. Several scouts exploded in a brilliant display of controlled explosions, sending shrapnel across the dark expanse. Lyra allowed herself a small nod of approval. "Your instincts are unconventional," she said quietly, "but effective." Alex felt a surge of confidence. He was no longer the unsure human who had arrived on Arendor. He was a strategist, a protector, and a problem solver, yet the larger ships loomed closer, their massive silhouettes threatening to crush everything in their path. The battle was far from over, and Alex knew that mistakes could be fatal. As the enemy advanced, Alex initiated an unorthodox tactic. He split the fleet into smaller units, sending part of the ships on decoy missions to lure the enemy away from key trade routes. Then he and Lyra guided the remaining ships into a tight formation around the most vulnerable stations. The human approach was simple: divide, confuse, and attack from unexpected angles, but it worked. The enemy hesitated, their coordination faltering as they struggled to predict Alex's next move. Lyra's role was crucial. She communicated with her people, coordinating defenses, providing real-time updates, and making split-second decisions that complemented Alex's unconventional strategy. She began to see that humans, though lacking the advanced technology and experience of alien commanders, had a flexibility and creativity that could not be calculated. Alex was not just a human in her eyes anymore. He was an ally she could rely on. Hours passed like days. The battle was exhausting, each maneuver demanding precision, courage, and trust. Alex and Lyra grew more in sync with every challenge, learning each other's patterns, predicting reactions, and adapting strategies in real time. They began to anticipate not only the enemy's moves but each other's thoughts, a silent understanding forming that surpassed words. Then came the turning point. A massive enemy ship, larger than any they had encountered, emerged from the void, armed with weapons capable of devastating entire stations. The fleet hesitated, unsure of how to respond. Alex felt a surge of determination. He could not allow fear to dictate their actions. He studied the ship, analyzed its trajectory, and noticed a pattern, a rhythm in its energy pulses that revealed a vulnerability. "This ship isn't invincible," he said, pointing to a sequence of energy readings on the console. "It has a weak point here. If we can disrupt its energy flow, we can disable it without destroying it." Lyra raised an eyebrow but trusted him. "Then we do it," she replied. Alex coordinated the fleet. Ships maneuvered into position, following his unconventional plan. They timed their attacks with precision, exploiting the weak point while decoy units drew the enemy's attention away. The massive ship shuddered, sparks flying across its hull as its systems failed one by one. For the first time, Alex felt the thrill of victory in space, not just for survival, but for triumph through strategy and human ingenuity. With the enemy's flagship disabled, the remaining ships retreated. Alex and Lyra had successfully defended Zarnok's empire. The victory was not without cost. Several stations had sustained damage and lives were lost. But the core holdings were secure. The alien factions that had doubted Alex began to reconsider their opinions. Humans were not as fragile as they thought. In fact, Alex had shown that unpredictability, courage, and quick thinking could overcome even the most formidable opponents. In the aftermath, Lyra finally allowed herself to relax. She looked at Alex with a mixture of gratitude and admiration. "I underestimated you," she admitted. "Not just your abilities, but your spirit. Zarnok would be proud." Alex felt a pang of emotion. He missed his friend more than words could express, but hearing Lyra speak like this made him realize that Zarnok's trust had not been misplaced. He had risen to the challenge not just for wealth or power, but to honor a friend who had believed in him. Over the following weeks, Alex and Lyra worked to rebuild and strengthen the empire. Alex learned to navigate political alliances, trade negotiations, and resource management, often introducing human methods that improved efficiency. Lyra supported him, guiding and advising, but also learning from his insights. Together they became a formidable team, respected and admired by humans and aliens alike. Their partnership grew beyond strategy and business. They began to understand each other on a deeper level, recognizing strengths, vulnerabilities, and shared values. Trust developed into friendship, and friendship into mutual respect. Lyra's initial distance faded, replaced by a bond that neither Zarnok's instructions nor the universe itself could have predicted. One day, while surveying a newly established trade station, Alex turned to Lyra. "We've done it," he said quietly. "Zarnok's legacy is safe, and we've survived everything the universe threw at us." Lyra smiled, a real smile this time, warm and genuine. "Yes," she replied, "and I've realized something important. Humans have value beyond what we thought. You have proven that, Alex. You've proven that even someone from another world can rise to meet challenges that seem impossible." Alex felt a warmth in his chest, a mix of pride, relief, and hope. The loss of Zarnok was still painful, but he had learned that the universe was not only dangerous but full of opportunity for those willing to rise to the occasion. He was no longer just a survivor. He was a protector, a strategist, and perhaps even a friend worthy of Lyra's trust. As they looked out over the bustling stations and the stars beyond, a sense of purpose filled Alex. The universe was vast, unpredictable, and often unforgiving, but he knew he could face it, not alone but with Lyra at his side. Together, they had defended a legacy, honored a friendship, and discovered the potential of human courage in the cosmos. And in that moment, Alex understood something profound. The universe would always challenge those who dared to venture into it, but with determination, ingenuity, and the trust of those who believe in you, even a human could leave a mark among the stars that would not be forgotten. The stars stretched endlessly before them, each one a reminder of possibilities yet to be explored. Alex and Lyra, once strangers bound by grief, now stood as allies, friends, and partners. The journey had been perilous, the lessons harsh, but the reward was immeasurable. They had survived, adapted, and thrived. And for Alex, that was more than enough to honor Zarnok, protect Lyra, and prove that humans could truly rise among the stars. With the galaxy quiet once more, Alex leaned against the command console, feeling the hum of the ships beneath his hands. Lyra joined him, their shoulders brushing lightly, a silent acknowledgement of everything they had endured. Together they would continue to protect what was precious, explore what was unknown, and prove that the courage of one human could indeed make a difference in an endless universe. And somewhere deep in his heart, Alex knew that Zarnok's spirit would always guide him, reminding him that friendship, loyalty, and courage were the true wealth of any civilization, human or alien. Ethan had always been the kind of man whose mind wandered far beyond the ordinary. On the human-colonized planet of Solara 7, within the metal corridors of the orbital research station, he often found himself lost in thought. Most of the time, these thoughts were harmless musings about machines, experiments, and the curious patterns of alien wildlife on the planet below. But sometimes his mind strayed into places he did not openly share, even with his closest colleagues. Those were the thoughts that made him blush or chuckle when no one was looking. It was a quiet morning on the station when Lyra arrived. She appeared suddenly, as if materializing from the thin, misty air of the docking bay. Ethan had seen many alien visitors before, but she was different. Her presence was calm, almost magnetic. There was an elegance in the way she moved, and her eyes, large and reflective like liquid silver, seemed to look straight through the metal walls of the station. Ethan's curiosity was immediately piqued. He watched her from the observation deck as she floated through the corridors, her gait unhurried but precise. She did not speak much, but when she did, her voice had a melodic quality that made even the hum of the station's machinery seem dull in comparison. Their first interaction happened in the lab, Ethan was tinkering with a small repair drone when she appeared beside him. "Your work is unconventional," she said, her tone calm but curious. Ethan blinked, unsure whether she meant it as praise or criticism. Thank you," he stammered. "I like trying things that might seem strange. Sometimes they work better that way." Lyra nodded slowly, her eyes scanning the drone, but then she did something that caught Ethan completely off guard. She said, "You think it could fail, but you also hope it will succeed." Ethan froze. His thought had been exactly that, just moments before, and yet she had said it out loud. He frowned, adjusting the drone nervously. How did you—" "I can sense what you're thinking," she said simply with a faint smile. There was no judgment in her voice, only an odd kind of curiosity that made Ethan's stomach twist with a mix of fear and intrigue. He stepped back, suddenly aware of how exposed he felt. "Wait, you mean you can read my mind?" "Yes," she replied. "I know what you are thinking now, and before you spoke I already knew the thought in your mind. But I do not judge it. In fact, I find it interesting." Ethan's face turned red. He had never imagined someone would be able to hear the private thoughts he often considered too embarrassing to voice. And yet here she was, not recoiling, not mocking, but admiring. He shook his head, trying to focus on the drone in front of him. "I don't know if I should. People usually fear what they cannot control." She finished his sentence, her silver eyes locking onto his. "But I do not fear your thoughts. I enjoy them." Ethan laughed nervously, a sound that was half disbelief, half relief. You enjoy them? Even the weird ones?" "Especially the weird ones," she said, and the hint of amusement in her voice sent a shiver down his spine. From that moment, Ethan's life at the station changed in ways he could never have anticipated. Every time Lyra was near, he became painfully aware of every thought that flickered through his mind. At first he tried to control it, to shield the more embarrassing or mischievous ideas, but he quickly realized that she saw everything anyway. And rather than judging, she responded with curiosity, laughter, or a subtle compliment that made him blush again and again. Their days became a delicate dance of unspoken communication. Ethan learned that even the smallest thought, a fleeting curiosity, or a mental joke could elicit a reaction from Lyra. One morning, while they were observing the sprawling forests of Solara 7 from the station's observation deck, Ethan's mind wandered to a particularly ridiculous idea about how the local wildlife might react to a human trying to mimic their mating calls. He smiled at the thought, half expecting her to ignore it. Instead, she laughed softly. "You imagine things with a humor I did not expect," she said, and Ethan felt his heart skip a beat. He had never felt so understood yet so exposed all at once. Despite his initial embarrassment, Ethan found himself drawn to Lyra in ways he could not explain. He began seeking moments to be near her, to see the subtle shifts in her expression when she accessed his thoughts. He realized that her ability to read minds did not make her superior or invasive. It made her capable of seeing the essence of a person, their fears, desires, and quirks without the mask of social pretense. However, life on the station was not without complications. There were others who noticed Lyra's presence and her unusual behavior. One researcher, Dr. Kellen, a man with ambitions bigger than his ethics, grew suspicious. He observed the way Lyra interacted with Ethan, noting that she seemed to know things she should not. Soon he began to formulate a plan to study her, perhaps even exploit her mind-reading abilities for his own gain. Ethan, oblivious to Dr. Kellen's growing envy, focused entirely on the strange and exhilarating connection he felt with Lyra. He discovered that he could test the limits of her abilities in small ways, thinking of impossible puzzles, intricate patterns, or even nonsensical rhymes, and she would respond accurately and often playfully. One evening, as the station orbited the forested planet below, Ethan hesitated outside Lyra's quarters. He had always been private, cautious, and wary of exposing his deeper thoughts. But the desire to understand her, to connect beyond the boundaries of language, pushed him forward. He knocked softly. Lyra opened the door, her eyes immediately locking onto his. "I know why you are here," she said calmly. "You want to see if I know what you're thinking." Ethan swallowed hard. I guess so," he admitted. She stepped aside, allowing him in. The room was sparsely furnished, but the soft light from the observation window cast a warm glow across the floor. Ethan felt a strange mix of anxiety and anticipation, think and I will tell you," she said, gesturing for him to sit, though he remained standing, unsure. He closed his eyes and let his mind wander, imagining a simple thought first, a picture of the forests below, the alien birds, the soft glow of the planet's atmosphere. Lyra's voice broke through. "You imagine the forest as if it is alive, almost breathing. You see patterns I would not notice myself." Ethan opened his eyes, stunned. He tried another thought, a private joke about the drone experiments, one that made him chuckle inwardly. Lyra responded immediately, laughing softly, her tone warm. "You find joy in small, silly things. I like that." The realization hit him fully then. She was not just reading his thoughts, she was appreciating them, seeing him for exactly who he was. And for the first time, Ethan felt a rare sense of liberation. He did not have to hide. He could be unfiltered, genuine, and fully himself. Days passed, and Ethan and Lyra continued their unusual partnership. Together, they explored the planet below, running experiments and observing wildlife. Yet beneath the scientific endeavors, there was an unspoken tension, a growing closeness that neither could ignore. Ethan found himself thinking about her constantly, wondering how someone could understand him so completely, while Lyra seemed intrigued by every nuance of his human mind. But the threat of Dr. Kellen loomed in the background, a reminder that not everyone on the station was as accepting of Lyra's abilities. He had begun collecting data secretly, watching Ethan and Lyra's interactions, plotting ways to control or exploit the mind-reading alien. Ethan remained unaware of the danger, lost in the thrill of being fully seen and appreciated by someone extraordinary. By the end of the first part, Ethan had reached a turning point. He realized that life on the station, with all its routines and experiments, could never be the same. Lyra had unlocked something within him, a sense of freedom, connection, and courage to embrace his thoughts without shame. Yet the shadow of jealousy and ambition from others reminded him that the future would not be easy. Ethan stood by the observation window one evening, the planet's forests glowing below in the soft light. Lyra stood beside him, silent but present, and he thought for the first time that perhaps being fully understood by another mind could be the most exhilarating experience of all. And somewhere deep in his thoughts he wondered if he was ready to see just how far this connection could go, and what challenges they might face together. The first part closed on a moment of quiet reflection, a mixture of hope, curiosity, and the faint thrill of the unknown, a promise that the next chapter of their story would test both their minds, their courage, and the extraordinary bond that had begun to form between human and alien.